So today we are doing a full body workout, starting out with a heavy bench press. Then we're doing a little bit of upper body work before going into some deadlifting and some lower body work as well. Hopefully being done in about an hour. We'll see how we go. I always start out with the bar because it tells me everything I need to know about how I'm feeling for the day in terms of my overall readiness, my joint strength, mobility, and just physical preparedness. That felt pretty good. Today I'm going to work up to a heavy triple, and then I might do a couple of back down sets maybe. Let's just see how things are feeling. I'm just getting back into proper overhand grip bench pressing now for the first time in over a year now since I tore my pec. So bench pressing is something I actually haven't done at all as part of my programming for about 7-8 years now. But last year when I was on the road in New York, I jumped in on a friend's workout, which was a big mistake because I'd just gotten off a 30-hour flight and was severely depleted. And as I was warming up, my pec tore, which was really unfortunate. Luckily, it wasn't that big a deal, and it wasn't a full-blown tear, so I was able to get back into training within about a month or so with some basic rehab type work. And within about 6 months, it was pretty much healed, although it was a lot weaker. And ever since that point to now, over 12 months later, it's back to normal. There is a little bit of deformation in the pec still, although my strength is pretty much back. And this now marks the start of a new training cycle where I'm trying to actively get back to and overshoot the weight that tore my pec. The only reason why I have this bench press goal is literally because it injured me in the past. There's a lot of fear of movement, fear of exercise out there. And one of the most important ways to just show for yourself that you have some resilience, to prove to yourself that resilience, is to get right back on your feet and show yourself that you're ready. Feeling good. So the weight that tore my pec was 90 kilos. We're doing that for 3 to 4 reps. Probably won't do that today, but we'll see how things go. Good. Now, one thing you might notice is I am setting up a little bit of a powerlifter arch. Whether you arch or not and how much you arch is very much a personal preference. But one thing that I think everybody should be doing is learning how to engage their feet and their legs when they're doing bench pressing. It's going to give you a lot more stability and it's going to help to give you more consistency in the way that you're lifting. So what I'm thinking about is once I've set my feet on the ground, I'm pushing into the ground as if I'm trying to push my body in that direction. Obviously, I'm not going to move, but by doing this, what you'll find is it helps to create a lot more tension through the entire body and helps stabilize your body as you go through the press. So my feet are set. Come back to set my hands up, slide under the bar, and now I'm going to be doing that leg push until I'm happy with where I'm at. And now we're ready to lift. Great. I forgot to set my watch. This is my first time actually doing this. Wrist is on my left. Here we go. Oh. Pretty good. Wow, this thing actually counted my reps. That's pretty cool. All right, not gonna go 90. I'm gonna go 85. I do feel like 90 is in there, but not in any rush at all. There's always next week, or the week after, or the month after. Okay, time to go. I want 3 reps. And I better get it because I'm here on my own. So it's gonna be really awkward if I don't get it. But really entertaining for you guys. Okay. Good. Happy with that. Technique wasn't perfect. I could feel myself losing my legs on all 3 of those reps. The strength was clearly there, but the technique still not where I'd like it to be really comfortably pushing myself to those true failure points, which is fine. It's also really exciting because it means that if I can do that weight pretty comfortably with my technique being maybe 60% of the way, as I dial it in over the next month, it's going to probably see significant increases in weight on the bar, which is super exciting. It's always nice to see that. But we'll see how well I can sustain that as once the baby comes. I'm gonna do 1 back down set, just the 60 kilos, just to help me a little bit more with that technique, help me ingrain it a little bit more. And that'll be it. Now with back down sets, I quite like just going for as many reps as possible, but when we're looking at something that's quite technical, I'd rather give myself a specific target to shoot for in terms of reps, just to keep me a little bit more focused and making sure my technique stays consistent as opposed to just burning out to absolute failure where technique breakdown is inevitable. I'm not too sure what I should be shooting for in terms of weight, but what I can do is use my trusty load calculator and say I did 85 kilos for 3 reps. And if I want to do, I don't know, let's say I want to do maybe 8 reps. Nope. 10, 12. Whew, okay. So technically I should be able to do maybe about 17 or 16 reps with 60 kilos. That's a lot of reps. I was not expecting that. What I'm going to shoot for instead though is bring it down to 12. I think 12 reps is a good target. Technically I could use 65 kilos for that, or 67.5, and that would be a grinder. But again, not looking at completely grinding myself out. This is more of a technique back down. It will give me a little bit more stimulus to my chest, but I'm doing this for the skill practice. Oh. I had 15 there, I reckon, maybe 16. Happy with that though. I did feel my technique straying as I went on through the set. So I'm glad I gave myself that target saying 12 reps, done. Because again, had I have done an AMRAP set, as many reps as possible, I would have sent it, probably gotten to maybe 15 or so. And my technique would have been very sloppy. And those last 3-4 reps probably would have put me at a slightly higher risk of hurting myself. Increased risk, given the fact that I haven't bench pressed properly in a very, very long time. And regardless of the weight, one thing I've learned from my injury is lack of preparedness is one of the biggest risk factors, as opposed to overall strength. Alrighty, next up is the T-bar row. This is probably my favorite T-bar row machine that I've ever used. I don't know exactly what it is, whether it's having the foot pad in front of you as opposed to having to have your feet behind you like that, or if it's the height of the pad, handles, I don't know, but it just feels great and I like it. And I haven't done this machine in probably 2 years now, since I first got it, which is kind of strange considering that I just called it my favorite, but there you go. I'm not too sure which handle we're going to end up with today. Whether we go in this 45-degree grip one, or we go more of a neutral one, or an overhand wide grip. This feels pretty good though. Let's try some wider. No. Let's go. No. 45 it is. Just going to work up to one set on this today. One hard set, probably around 6 to 8-ish reps, which is where I like to stay when I'm focusing on muscle building. And also going to add in some extra shrugs at the end to train the upper back a little bit more. Oh. Oh. I want to get a few more reps out of those shrugs. So we're going to go again in about 10 seconds. I just realized I forgot to hit the start set again. That's annoying. I got to remember to use this watch. All right. Oh, that's better. Oh. 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 So satisfying, just that. Ah. Oh. Nice. Now there's two reasons why I'm only doing one work set on a lot of these exercises. First of all this is minimalist training. I've been working on trying to find the absolute minimum effective dose, not trying to max everything out as much as possible. And if you're looking at, say, doing 3 or 4 sets to completely hit 100% of the maximal benefits you could get from an exercise, that doesn't mean that one set is only 25%. The research seems to indicate that it's anywhere between 60 to 80% of the stimulus is received in that first set, and the last few sets make up the final 20 to 40%. And there's a humongous amount of variability there, depending on whether you're training to failure or not training to failure. As you can see on some of the exercises where I am only doing one set, I am pushing closer to failure points to help to make up for the lack of sets. Other reason though is I wanted to use this piece of equipment, which is something that I got about a year ago and I haven't really used much since then. I'm still not too sure how I feel about it, whether I think it's really good exercise or it's bad exercise. It's a frontal plane pull and I'll obviously be facing that way. But I just like adding a little bit of variety to my training every now and then. You could just do a regular lat pull down, but I like to mix it up when I can. The main thing that I dislike about this exercise is you can't get that big of a stretch. I am just able to fully lengthen my body out just before it hits and bottoms out. But depending on if I let myself lift a little bit further forwards and stretch up a little bit more, sometimes I do wind up bottoming out. And changing the height of this handle here doesn't necessarily change, doesn't make a big difference. You think it would though. Unfortunately, as you can see, when you change the height of the handle, it also pivots outwards, which makes it a very uncomfortable angle for me to be pulling on. So that's downside number one. Downside number two is these handles themselves. I would much prefer something that has a bit more freedom. That would have me maybe on a 45-ish to neutral degree position instead, or even better, a completely freely moving handle. That would be fantastic. But I really like how it pulls not straight down, but out and then in, because it's moving on a circle. All right. Boogaloo. Is that nice? Oh. All right, now it's on to the lower body side of the workout. By the way, hope you guys find this stuff interesting. If you are, let me know in the comment section below. And if there's anything that you guys want me to talk more about in this series, just drop it down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer any of the questions and give you guys as much as I can. Because even though I said before these videos are about keeping me accountable, I also want to make sure that I'm giving you guys as much value as possible so you're enjoying it as well. If you're training hamstrings, you always need to have some kind of knee bending exercise included, because one of the heads of your hamstrings doesn't cross both the knee and the hip joint, it just crosses the knee joint, which means if you only did hip extension based things like RDLs, you'd never train that area. And to be honest, I got no idea if that's going to put you at risk of anything whatsoever, but it just makes sense that you wouldn't want to be neglecting anything, you know? Ooh. I wonder if you heard that. That was nice. Thinking back to those shrugs from before in the T-bar row, I always find it's very hit and miss for me with direct trap training or neck training. Most of the time I feel completely fine afterwards, but there'll be some random days where the next day I'll have thumping headaches. And I think it's something to do with maybe the way I'm executing the exercise. It's so subtle because I've really done like close-up visuals of all of my sets, all of my reps several times to try to identify what it is. But there must be something happening around the suboccipitals or the levator scap or something where I just trigger something and it gives me a lot of tension and headaches for the next few days. And there's no warning signs during the set. I don't feel anything different. It doesn't look any different. I don't feel anything different in the working muscles either. Just the next day I wake up, I'm like, oh fuck, here we go again. And then it's a day or two of just a lot of tension. So please pray for me that it doesn't happen tomorrow. All right, I think this will be a work set now. I haven't done a seated leg curl in quite a while, so I might be completely off base. But whatever it is, we are gonna make this a work set by just sending it to complete failure. Let's see how we go. Yeah, that was too light. It's gonna be a long set. I thought I'll start slowing things down a little bit with my tempo, just to shave off some of the reps. That was pretty good. Enough, time for deadlifts. So we have a few costume changes when we get to deadlifts. First is the bandana comes out, not as a fashion choice, but to keep my hair out of my face when I'm bending forwards. It really throws me off. Other thing is to roll my pants down, because this gets in the way when I'm pulling that bar off the ground. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with deadlifts. Probably my favorite exercise in terms of how it makes me feel after. But the reason I don't like them is how technical it is and how hit and miss it is for my technique anyway. No matter how much practice I do, I always find it challenging to find my groove. It'll feel really good one day, even for a couple of weeks, and then it will feel absolutely horrible for several weeks after. Let's hope today is a good day. My biggest struggle is getting away from using my back to lift the weights. It should very much be grabbing on and just your legs are doing most of the work. Of course, your body's holding the weight in place and your whole back musculature is working as well. But because of how flexible my spine is, I can really crank into extension and retraction, which works against me because my natural instinct is to do that, but it also makes things a lot more challenging, and it takes my attention away from pushing the world away from me and using my legs, because I feel so much more in my back muscles. Not in a bad way, of course, but it's just frustrating because I know that if I am able to cue more of this longer arm position and a slight kyphosis or round to the upper back and just compression around my midsection, that's a lot more powerful overall. But just like the bench press, it takes a lot of practice. And honestly, maybe I should be doing this a little bit more frequently so I can get more practice in with the deadlift. But I'm trying to balance so many things. You know, like I said, I'm not just training in the gym. I'm also doing running, doing flexibility work, doing calisthenics. I got a lot going on. And I don't want to live in the gym. I don't like spending that much time training, no more than an hour most of the time. And I don't want to spend more than maybe 4 days in the gym. But I've really been loving the whole 3-day split thing that I've been running for this entire year. I don't think I actually told you guys what it is, but it's full body day, which is today, and then I have a lower body day, which is coming up next, and then an upper body day. And then I've got running, flexibility stuff. You'll see it all throughout the week as we go through this series. Yeah. The only reason I really keep these in is because I love the deadlift so much as an exercise. And I think it is obviously a very foundational movement to be lifting a weight off the ground.
But if we were actually looking at this from a time efficiency standpoint, the amount of time that I put into deadlifting and effort for the minimal payoff, for me anyway, it's not a good use of time. But that's okay, because you know what? Training does not always have to be perfect and optimal and efficient all the time. You can pop in some redundant exercises, you can pop in whatever you want, as long as you enjoy it and it makes sense to you. Okay, I just realized that if I want to wear straps, I probably can't wear my watch, can I? Or maybe, yeah, it works, okay. Not bad, not bad. Felt very heavy. All right, set 2. Let's see if it feels any better. Knees pushing out, arms locked, big brace. Felt the same, really. There's nothing specific that's fatiguing, but I just don't feel that same strength. To be fair, I'm probably overthinking this way too much. One thing I should mention is it was about 2 months ago that I sprained something in my lower back. I'm 99% sure it was a facet joint sprain. I was doing RDLs, using this exact same weight, actually, and something just went randomly on my set, which is very unexpected and very painful. I couldn't walk for a couple of days, but I also knew that it was something that was only temporary, it was going to heal, and now I'm back to 100%, except for maybe my strength and just how things are feeling in general when it comes to hinging motions, whether it's an RDL or it's a conventional deadlift. So there's a little bit more practice to get my body back to normal there, which, it's perfectly fine. Between the lower back and pec last year, probably sounds like I'm a complete mess with my training. But I think it's worth mentioning because it is really important to normalize, not necessarily injuries, but tweaks and niggles and all these kind of just like discomforts that we experience with training. Because the fact is, I've been training for nearly 20 years now. And in that time, I've had 3 major incidences where I've really hurt myself and had to take an extended period of time away from the gym, rehabbing, fixing that stuff. And that's a pretty good average. If you think about 20 years of training, training multiple times a week, a lot of hard workouts, and only 3 incidences of actually hurting yourself, not bad odds. But I think a lot of people are completely terrified and mortified of injuring themselves, and they hold themselves back from exercising. I mean, for me, with the pec tear, like I said last year, that was completely avoidable. I could have chosen to not train because I was very sick, dehydrated, underslept, under-recovered. Every red flag under the sun you could think of was showing, and I chose to ignore them and just train. And not just train, but also train very flagrantly without much of a warm-up, without much of an adjustment to my own personal setting. I jumped into a friend's workout. Could have avoided that one. But like the RDL, for instance, when I did that a couple of months ago, that was random. I'd ticked every box, dotted every I, crossed every T. Sometimes there are just some bad lucks where, I was feeling a little bit tired because I was towards the end of a training cycle. I've been pushing hard for several months. So you're gonna feel tired. You're gonna feel these effects of hard training. And it just happened it just so happened that had to be my time where I just tweaked something. which is unfortunate, but it happens to everybody. Anybody who tells you that they haven't had some kind of tweak, either hasn't been training hard enough for long enough, or they're lying to you. So it's not a matter of saying it's good, bad, you don't know what you're doing. It's about saying like these kinds of things that happen to absolutely everybody, and we should not necessarily try to get injured. We should always be as smart as we can with our training, but we should also accept that these things happen and they're temporary, and you can move forwards from that. Anyway, I guess it's time to do my next set. Oh, that one feels good. Finally. Yeah. Nice. Good to finish with a win.